Hi, I'm Stephanie. Welcome to my podcast. I haven't shot a podcast episode all year. If you don't know, I tore my ACL playing indoor soccer at the end of 2023, and my focus of this last year has been rehabbing my knee and kind of moving upward from a journey that I didn't plan to take in 2024. So if you're curious, if you're someone who has had a slightly more severe injury or a chronic illness, or you've just not maybe some events in your life have happened where they weren't planned and now you must deal with moving forward into life. And that's kind of what I'm going to be talking about today, is kind of my story of this last year on when this injury happened and I felt like I was just so lost and had no navigation for where I was going to go. The things that I've done this year and the steps that I've taken to get to the place I am now, almost a year later, feeling back into myself, back into my body, but it required a lot of discipline and resilience. So at the end of 2023, I was playing indoor soccer with some friends, and I've played soccer my whole life. I love soccer. I'm an athlete. I love doing anything active in general. I will say yes to, and it was a way to connect in real life. I think that's something that we all crave, is doing something more than sitting in a restaurant or a bar or whatever, going for a walk. Those are your standard fare things to connect with people. And this was playing soccer with a group of people, all ages. And it was a way for me to connect. And that's why I did it. And I tore the ACL pretty early on in the game and didn't realize I had. And went to work that night. My coworker was like, I think it's worse than you think it is. So I booked an appointment at the orthopedic office the next day. It was Thanksgiving the following day, so I didn't get an MRI until Friday. And sure enough, I was given the results of torn ACL, possible meniscus tear, and needed to make some really big decisions because you don't necessarily have to get this surgery. But I did my research. I talked to PTs. I had a really long conversation with the surgeon. I was like, I think the long-term solution for me was to get this surgery. And I wasn't working a lot. I had some big presentations coming up in my personal business. And luckily, those were planned prior. It was in between injury and getting surgery. So I was just in a maintenance stage, getting ready for surgery. I was working a little bit. I had some big, like I said, business and client things that were already planned for the month of December, and I was able to do those things. I'm really glad I had those things planned before the surgery, because from surgery forward, a lot of things changed. I was able to carefully go about my life before the surgery, but after the surgery, it was full on. It was hard to be vulnerable. It was hard to ask for help. I moved in with my parents for a couple weeks so that they could help take care of me, because I literally couldn't get out of bed without help for the first, 2 or 3 weeks, until I started to learn and get stronger and practice all the weird ways to get in and out of bed. I won't go too far into that phase, but I had this surgery 3 days before the new year, and for New Year's, I usually, in the days before and after, I usually do a lot of rituals to wrap up the year, look at the year, kind of plan for the new year. And every time I attempted to write my goals for 2024, the only thing I could figure out was rehabbing this knee. Everything felt like it was less priority, and it was okay. And I was really focused on doing my PT, staying with the goal, because if you don't follow PT, you don't heal, and then your body doesn't recover at the rate that it's supposed to. I had fractured my elbow probably 10 years ago snowboarding, and the reason my arm goes straight is because I went to PT and I did the work. So like I knew, and of course we go down all these um, Googling holes when you're in these things. And it was like, I have to stay up on PT. This is my priority. These are my goals. And that's how I started the year. Now, when something like this happens, you can decide to like be like, woe is me, and just do the bare minimum to get through and stop PT at like 6 months. There's like totally that route to just like get through that first push and just be done with it. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be pre-injury. I wanted to be strong. You know, I lost all my muscle in my quad and my calves and the muscles around it, but primarily my quad muscle. And I was like, no, I want to be able to skate, snowboard, surf. I want to be able to do some random things with friends when they ask, like go for a hike. Like I'm very active, and it was imperative that I get there. So I had a decision to make. And I want you all to think about this. Like when something happens, you have a decision. You can like play the victim, you can do the bare minimum, or you can ask yourself, what is the lesson to be learned here? Now, I want to premise, I don't feel like anything caused the accident and the injury. I think it was like a multitude of factors coming together to create this effect. And I don't think there was any like punishment from the universe for this to happen. I honestly, to this day, can go into the 6 reasons that lined up to make this thing happen. So I also want to premise that. So I made a decision, you know, I'm going to stick to the goals. I'm going to stick to the PT, and I'm going to play. It gave me the ability, like I was working all the time between my bartending job and my business. And this was an opportunity for me to really move into some new things. I was reading a lot of books. I was playing in spirituality and different facets of it and experimenting a lot with like what was working intuitively, what wasn't. And I had this like breath of space to do it while attempting to stay strong and focused and like looking forward, because it's so easy to just want to give up. I wanted to give up so many times, but I was like, this is not the lane I'm picking. So the first, 3 or 4 months were just like head down, saying no to things, really simplifying my life. I had 1 or 2 friends that were really, I had a handful of friends that were checking in, some because they knew what was happening. And just like, there was like, it was wild where people just came out to like support me in a way that I really needed. And some understood and some just were there to be support. And that was really helpful, especially in the beginning stages when I felt very overwhelmed and stuck in a bedroom for days on end and weeks on end, and just PT and food and reading and TV and not being able to engage in the world outside of a bedroom in the middle of the winter, which was in some ways fine because winter in Minnesota is not the best if you can't partake in winter activities for me. As the months progressed, I was back into the day to day, back into the work, back into life. And just still, number one focus was me, get myself better. And every time I wanted to like dive back into my business, I was just like, I'm just not there, you know? Obviously, I wasn't like showing up for my business like I was. I had some clients here and there, or I had some old clients. I had some things coming through, but not at how it was pre-injury. But that was okay because I was so focused on healing myself in a multitude of ways. And over the course of time, it's been about 11 months post surgery. The week of Thanksgiving, it'll be a year post injury. I've learned a lot this year, and I've learned that I have, you know, I've always lived my life on the fringe and making really big decisions and jumping off cliffs, but this was something that wasn't planned. This was something that I had to look at and decide how I was going to go forward. And I wanted, like I said, I wanted to give up so many times, but that wasn't the solution. I'm like, I want to move forward. It was committing to my PT session. So it was like really working on the commitment and the consistency and the discipline to do my PT instead of just sitting on the couch. It was going to work, even though I was exhausted, to continue to heal during that, because I needed to make money also. And just a lot of stretching and a lot of resting and a lot of chiropractor and acupuncture and healing sessions and my own healing and my own exploration of self. And what I've learned through this event that was not planned was how I am resilient and strong. The confidence that if I do the work and I put in the work, things will move forward, things will change, and my life will still go on. It's not ending because I had this knee injury, and I'm not putting my life on hold, but my focus now is this direction. And I think that was like a huge lesson to learn this year. I mean, the amount of exploration, learning on new subjects, taking all the stuff that I've been learning in the spiritual realm, in the coaching, in the business realm, differently than I maybe did 4 years ago, and put it into play with what happened to me. The ability to slow down, the ability to refocus, the ability to really ask myself what I want and look at what I've been doing and decide how I want to move forward. And I have to tell you, the reason I'm doing this podcast right now is because I can finally feel myself on the other side. If you would have asked me 11 months ago where I was at, it was, really, really having a hard time, in a lot of pain, dealing with mental health that comes with all the things that come from a major injury and subsequent surgery. And now it's like, for the first time, I feel like myself again. I'm, I have a whole new PT track right now. I'm finally in the track that they're training me through PT as an athlete. I'm building my muscle to where my knee's not feeling agitated all the time. I have been implementing all these things all year to where I'm confident in what I'm doing. And I'd love to share some of that stuff on subsequent other episodes. Today, I just want to share that when life steps in and gives you a new journey, what are you going to do? And what are you going to decide to do to go forward? And that's like the lesson of how this year has been for me. So I'm coming to almost a year to the day in the next few weeks of when my life took a detour in a way that I had never planned. And as I look at myself through the last year of all the little things I did to not give up, to stay resilient, to be strong, to advocate for myself, to make decisions on what my body needed, what my needed, what my mental health needed, I just realized I really am strong and resilient and I can do it. This year has just been another example of life giving me an opportunity to expand and grow. And I'm just so thankful that I feel this type of excitement about life again. And I want you to feel the same. And I want to tell my story because one thing that I love is hearing people's story of how they got from here to there. I love memoirs for that reason. I love podcasts for that reason. I love finding out where people started and where they went. So, this is my story of a journey I had not planned to take. Now, I have created a new service offering based on the work that I did on myself this last year, along with all the knowledge that I bring in throughout the years in coaching, in business, in chart reading, astrology and human design, tarot, pendulum, energy releasing. I've been working on these sessions with clients and it's been really successful, and it it's a culmination of my work right now. I'm offering one type of session and I'm excited to share with you more. Thank you always for listening. And I'm curious if this podcast has given you more clarity or helped you see that when life hands you big things, you all have the capacity to move forward. Thank you so much for listening to my story. It's taken me a long time to do this and a whole bunch of starts and stops to start this podcast again. And thank you so much for joining me today.